Can we read the public notice, please?
So the legal notice of the public information hearing for the Town of Harwich Community Preservation Committee will be held on, we'll try that again, the Harwich Community Preservation Committee, the CPC, will hold a public information hearing on Thursday, September 14th, 2017, at 6 p.m. in the Don B. Griffin Room, Town Hall. Address is 732 Main Street, Harwich, Massachusetts, 02645, pursuant to MGL Chapter 44B, Community Preservation Act, Section 5B1. Quote, as part of its study, the committee shall hold one or more public informational hearings on the needs, possibilities, and resources of the city or town regarding regarding community preservation possibilities and resources, notice of which shall be posted publicly and published for each of 2 weeks preceding a hearing in a newspaper of general circulation in the city or town, end quote. Your attendance is encouraged to learn about the Act and to discuss possible projects consistent with the Act and to review the submittal guidelines. The Act includes projects related to open space, community housing, historic preservation, and recreation. Application information is available online or at the town administrator's office.
Okay, before we open this up to the public, I'd like the board to identify themselves and the units that they represent, please, starting from my left.
Catherine Green, Real Estate and Open Space.
Joe Powers, representing Historic District Historical Commission.
Jim Atkinson, representing the Planning Board.
Dave Nixon, representing Recreation.
Dan Twork, representing the Selectmen.
Cindy Mall, elected by the Selectmen, Board of Selectmen.
Okay, let's begin. Questions from the audience? Would you get up at the microphone, please, and would you tell us your name? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would just make a motion to open the public
Oh,
hearing.
that's right. I'm sorry.
No, we're going to make you legit. Move to open the hearing.
Second.
I'm Sandra. Oh,
Aye.
We're open.
it's okay. Sandra Pastuzak, 21 Norris Drive. And my concern was that any funds available from the Community Preservation Act be used to help restore the Brooks Library. It looks like the pillars are going to fall down at any minute. It really, really needs help. And I know it was approved at the May meeting and there was not enough funds to do it, so they want to put it off another year. But I think we really need to take care of it now. This is our historic district, and through the years, a lot of people have put time and money and a lot of effort into making this a place we can be proud of. So I think our generation should be the one to help save the Brooks Library and not let it deteriorate any further.
Any questions of the board? Comments? Next.
Hi there, Jenny Hewitt, Library Director. I guess I came in at just the right time. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I totally share your sentiment. Love to see it done. That's not the way government procurement has to work, yeah. What happened was we got the funding May of 16, so a year ago, but it went out to bid late in the spring, and that's one of the primary reasons why the bids came in higher. And so it was advertised again in June with only one bid, and that same bidder had bid before. His bid increased this time $350,000 because, you know, last minute trying to get somebody. So anyway, the plan is to go out to bid again in the fall. So when contractors are trying to book for the next season, and then we'll have a firm number to know to ask for more funding. So we will need some increase to do it. It's also, one of the factors too is that I think the architects may have underestimated the cost of doing this on the Cape in the summer. This chemical stripping of the paint has to be done when it's over 60 degrees at night, and even the last couple weeks of August, it's not. So it's a real short window of time. It's got to be into July and August, and so the contractors either have to put people up here, or they're paying for their time to commute from off Cape. So that's another reason for the increased cost. So, questions about that project? It's very frustrating. We hated to see it wait another year. It really does look bad.
Any questions from the board?
All right, should I give you an update on our Rogers Group project? That is, we have 26 Rogers Group statues. I worked this summer on getting a quote for that so we could start that project. We've had that money for a couple of years, but I've been focusing on other building issues. What we were trying to do, like with all the maintenance projects, it's much better if you get someone who's doing the evaluation and actually do the work. So we're hoping to do the procurement where we advertise for the assessment and preparation of a conservation treatment plan, and then to do the work. Well, as soon as I put out the request for 3 quotes, the conservatives are calling me and asking me, well, what kind of treatment technique are you planning to use? I don't know. That's what we need you to tell us, right? So anyway, I had to cancel that. It was a good idea, but we do have someone we're about to contract with to do the assessment and the conservation treatment plan, and this conservator is from Connecticut. He actually did the restoration of all the statues at the New Canaan Historical Society, which is the home of the John Rogers studio, kind of like our Emerald Crowell. So anyway, he's well-known, and obviously they trusted him with their statues. So that's where we are. It is moving forward, but it was somewhat overwhelming when I really started to work on it this summer, because I'm not restorer or conservation. So anyway, that's where we are on that. We are planning to submit a request, this fall for preservation and digitization of the Harwich Oracle newspaper. We applied last year, and it was denied, and then when you had the meeting, we revoted a lot of the projects. I came and asked for feedback on that, and I think we weren't clear enough about what we were doing to preserve the originals. I think we understood what we thought. I guess more thought it was common knowledge of this is what you do with the originals. So we will submit that, and I have good news in that it's actually good that it didn't get funded last year, because it turns out about 14 years of that, I believe it's about 21 years that the project covers. 14 years had already been microfilmed in a project in the 90s and early 2000s by the Boston Public Library. So it's much less expensive to digitize microfilm than it is the original newspapers. So the whole project cost is $10,000, just around $10,000, which it was going to be about $40,000 last year. So that's huge. So we will also get a whole complete set of microfilm, which is like the gold standard for preservation, and be able to preserve the original newspapers by, in archival boxes and protect it from dust and heat and light and fingerprint and people turning the pages. So it's a better project, and will be much less expensive. So we're on the Historical Commission agenda for next week to discuss it with them. And one other thing I just wanted to mention, as part of our work on looking at all of our digitized resources, we submitted to have all the annual town reports digitized. There's a project called the Digital Commonwealth, and it's a partnership with Boston Public Library. And so we're in the queue for that. Like our whole run, we have a longer run forgotten if it's 15 years or 19 years earlier than what the town clerk has the official bound set. So ours starts earlier, which is good, and we have a complete set. We're not missing any issues. And so they generally like to do, I believe it's maybe 50 volumes a year, and this exceeds that. But they also like to do one collection in one run. So we're hopeful that it will all get done this year. If not, it would be broken out over 2 years. But that's a great, that's going to be a great benefit for the town. I know personally, I get asked things, and we're trying to research, a town meeting vote or how a project, a history on something, and to have it digitized is going to be awesome. So that's good news.
Any questions of the board? Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Actually, I have double duty tonight, so I'm supposed to be over at the Finance Committee meeting. So what I'd like to do is just do an overview. I recognize we have quite a few of our department heads are here, so if there are specific questions in regards to any of these projects, I'm sure they can field the questions. One of the things that we've tried to do administratively is to make sure that we have a more comprehensive approach when we come and submit applications. Obviously, it's the goal of this administration to submit applications that are received favorably, and then to work cooperatively with the CPC to see if we can get these things funded. All these projects, in my mind, have a certain level of significance and importance to us as an organization. Lastly, too, just on the, before I get into individual projects, we did vet these through the Board of Selectmen. We spent the night, or part of a meeting, talking about these on July 24th. So the Board of Selectmen, and you have a member of the board here tonight, did go through and saw that these were things that they would like to see administration work on directly. So the first project is Hinckley's Pond. Hinckley's Pond has been before this committee twice. It's been revised each time. It will be revised again to try to meet the criteria that CPC has. Unfortunately, we've had another fish kill. So I wish this work had been done when we originally asked, but it hadn't, and the situation has not gotten any better. The components of the project, there's probably 3 components of the project that we have. One is to do an alum treatment to actually protect and help the pond, to make it so the fish and the wildlife have a better functioning environment. The second, per the request of this committee a couple years ago, we've looked at it in terms of how do we get better access to the water. So we have a plan. I know Amy and I walked it, and I think actually with Eric as well. We walked the site, and we are looking at, in this project, the application that you'll see would be to put a walkway down or a stairway down. We actually have been in the business of building stairways to different beach locations, so we have the ability to do that. And then secondly, the second feature that we'd like to add is to kind of make it so people can walk down to the beach, but also there's quite a few people that ride bikes. And I never remember the name of that country store that's right across the street, but they don't want people to have bikes parked in their parking lot. Commingling bikes and vehicles doesn't make sense. So actually the town of Orleans has this, where they have a little overhang and they have a bike rack. So when people come in, they can park their bikes and chain them up and then walk around in the area. So that plan is significantly changed. Hopefully the same, the primary intent is to let's make sure we clean the pond. The secondary intent is to make sure we address the concerns that were raised previously by CPC and making sure we improve the access. So that's the nature of that project. I'm a little bit more familiar with that one since I've been personally involved in that. The second is on the historic records retention. This is with King. We have the downstairs basement of the building has, it's really an inadequate storage space, but yet we keep historic documents down there. The effort that we're trying to do is twofold. It's actually these 2 items. And Carolyn's here, so I'm going to let Carolyn comment if there's any questions in regards to the community center project. But the idea is to have King Information Systems, a company that's been around a long time that I've had some dealings with in prior jobs. They come in and they cull through the materials. They try to digitize or scan what needs to be scanned. They create a database so then we can access it. And then they make sure that we don't have duplicate records. So one of the things we want to do is to make sure we preserve. The downstairs in the basement of this building is not the location we should be housing. It's wet, and we're damaging the records. Every year we keep them down there. It's not in the best interest of the community. So something needs to be done, and I think it's a twofold approach. One is to see what we can do to scan and cull the records, and then secondly, if we build the infrastructure to move them over to the community center basement is much more amenable to, I think, that operation, and that's the concept behind those two. Albro House, I've been asked by the Board of Selectmen to look at that again. One of the things that I should probably comment on that this is a project that administration had through the planner to put the ramp on, and as you look out the window, you can see that that ramp work was done. I think the total on that was about $19,000. That was just for the ramp. We actually did about, I think it was about $8,000 more to get the additional plantings and to have it actually look somewhat so it fits in. So that project, the CPC funds did the ramp to get the handicapped access. We had to supplement that with town funds to make it look a little bit more integrated into the building. The Board of Selectmen had asked me at one of their meetings that they wanted to have a study done, an analysis done of that building, of what are some of the elements to maintain that building going out into the future. So a little bit of a work in progress, if you would, but I think that we will identify a contractor or a engineer to look at the building and see what work additionally needs to be done and what potential reuses the building could have. Right now, it holds office space on the second floor that are uses consistent with the youth counselor that we have over there. So it's primarily a counseling center, if you would, or a wellness center, I think is one of the terms of art they wanted me to say. On the Judah Eldridge property, I think the Real Estate and Open Space has had this property before it. The town had this property before it. It is a property that is in the Six Ponds area, if I have that right. And we're trying to, initially, the initial effort was to use it as a recharge site for wastewater. That was passed by town meeting and voted down by the voters. After that vote, there was an effort by some of the neighbors, Jim Chevry and company, I think kind of led the charge, met with Real Estate and Open Space to see if there was a opportunity to have that be converted as conservation property. So administration is behind the application on that to seek if we can have that property now be considered conservation land. Amy is working on that, as well as Ally behind me, so if there are specific questions in terms of that, I'm sure that they can help answer some of those questions. The Housing Trust and Housing Coordinator, I've actually decided this year, I've been in administration for a long time, and I usually take a couple projects on myself. One of the projects that I worked on was Muddy Creek, as an example. I will be doing a lot of the wastewater, and I've heard from the Board of Selectmen that, you know, one of the key priorities that they would like to have tackled is to see if we can do something with affordable housing. So the town of Yarmouth, we've had some extensive discussions with the town of Yarmouth. They formed a housing trust, and they have a housing coordinator. So we are looking at that model, and we are hoping to put that model in place here. What that would probably entail is the creation of a bylaw. I think there's 5 people on the committee, the initial construct, the administrator, myself. I have already volunteered to go on that, onto that group, and we will look at town assets and town property and see if we're able to get some affordable housing projects that are up and operational. Yarmouth has been very, very successful in accomplishing it. I think this year they have, I think it's well over 100 that they're pursuing. They had a couple of hotels that they've been able to try to convert. I don't think we're going to have necessarily those same opportunities, but you got to start small. I think the idea here is to create the volunteer committee is somewhat limited in their resources to be able to accomplish things. And I think that's one of the things that Yarmouth found, and having administrative personnel kind of lead the effort in that area makes a lot of sense. So that will be something that we will be presenting to town meeting to present. Yarmouth, one of the funding models that they have, they go directly with their CPC, and their CPC is very supportive of them, and CPC puts a lot of money behind the effort so that way housing can be done. So as we develop that program and as we get additional details, we're more than happy to share, but there will be requests to have some startup money to get us into the business and start building some affordable housing units. On Brooks Park and White House Field, I'm actually going to leave those to Eric if he doesn't mind commenting on those. I'm just not as up to date on those elements. Just on the Brooks Park one, the lighting, I know that we had a person came in. I like to believe that when people come in and ask government to do things, if you're patient, we will eventually get to it. And we were told, or the concern was raised to the selectmen and to administration that there were some lighting issues, and we asked to have those be looked at, and those are now coming around to fruition, that we have a plan that will include lighting to be able to address some of those concerns. That's probably about 2 or 3 years, so nothing happens quick in government sometimes. On the library, I think you did hear about the library project already. I have been involved in some of those discussions. Unfortunately, the way the market is, we're going to need more money to do that work. In a nutshell, that's the situation. I know also, and I may leave it to kind of Kathy if she wants to comment in addition, that there are some additional open space parcels that we are currently working on in terms of getting some consideration for conservation purposes. So I don't know how public any of those ones are, so I may leave that at the moment. And then on the cemetery, you have Robin here. As you can see, I've made it an administrative priority that departments come out and make sure that we get a presence. I just want to make sure that when departments spend a lot of time and a lot of effort to submit applications and we don't get any positive results, it's very, very difficult for me to go back and continue to ask people to submit projects to have them be turned down. So hopefully, if you guys have concerns, if you have things that you want us to look at, certainly interested to do that. We need to know that before so we can get you the answers that you're looking for. I think Robin, was it last year when I sat in on one of these, I didn't even know wrought iron. I mean, she did her homework on wrought iron back to the 1800s to get those answers. And I think that shows a level of dedication that, you know, we're interested in doing this collaboratively, and if there are questions that need to be answered, we're certainly willing to pursue those and get you the information that you need. And hopefully it will be cooperative, is what I would like to send the message. And I'll be here for any questions, and then I'm going to head over to finance.
One question. The Tubman Road.
I think you
Through the
gotta go
board?
through the chair.
Yeah, that's okay. Would you get up at the microphone, please?
Okay. I've broken all the rules. I have a question about affordable housing. There's a large development off of Tubman Road. Is that part Habitat for Humanity, or is it a private developer?
That's Brewster.
Oh, that is Brewster?
Yeah, it is affordable housing.
Okay,
yeah.
by Habitat?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
Any questions from the board to the town administrator?
You-
Joe?
Sorry, Chris, not to delay you, but to delay you.
Fine,
On the
I'm
list
here,
here,
so.
excuse me, in the title it says the list was reviewed by the selectmen. Did they take any actions or just review?
They reviewed and they said that they want us to continue to pursue these.
Okay.
So
and-
I took that as a green light, if you would, and certainly you have a selectman here, so, and we're televised, so whatever I say, you can go back and look.
And then, did they ascribe any priorities to these 12 projects?
They have
or-
not.
Okay.
In part, one of the things that we're in a stage here where we kind of work in a coterminous process where we have capital budget items that we're working on, and then CPC. One of the reasons for the coordination is, I think a few years ago, CPC did not want to fund a rec project, so I actually put it in the capital plan. So we were going to fund it through tax dollars, and then CPC changed their mind and they did fund it, so I backed off. But I'd rather, instead of having competing interest, if I know if something's going to be funded through CPC, then I won't try to fund it in the capital plan using town resources.
Sure, that makes sense.
So just trying to do a better job of coordination on an administrative level.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, two more,
Go
I
ahead.
promise. At the top, it says additional projects have been included. What does that reference mean?
I think on those, we didn't have at the time real estate and open space when we initially did this list, that they were in the process of looking at properties. And they had not fully generated the list, if I remember that right.
Thank you. And last one, just doing the quick tally, only one project for affordable housing? Were there any others considered, or any that could be considered?
Yeah, just on the affordable housing, I'm glad to have the opportunity. These are administrative efforts. I have not reached out yet. I have kind of on my to-do list, Ladara Zola. Is that right? Yeah, Ladara. She had indicated before, she's been before the Board of Selectmen. The Selectmen gave separate funding to do some of the design and other work, preliminary work, and that she had indicated that the Habitat folks would be back on the project 94 to 97 on West Harwich to seek funding for the actual construction of the houses. And that's, to my knowledge, is going to be a request directly to you guys. So I anticipate that Habitat will be putting forward a project to you guys. I don't know whether it's this year or next year. I'm not privy to their internal operations.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
If I may add,
Go ahead.
I'm a member of the Harwich Housing Committee. I do believe John Stewart from the Harwich Housing Authority will be submitting an affordable housing request as well, the buy down program, which has the committee support.
That's right. Anybody else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I will try to attend, so if there are questions, I encourage you to reach out to any staff and just let them know. And then if you want me to be here, I will try to work into my schedule. Like tonight, sometimes I get double duty, but I will do my best to attend to make sure we get answers to your questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Eric?
Just give you an update on what we're looking at on the list that you have. The two potential articles that are on your list, still subject to final approval from the Rec Commission. But one of them is Brooks Park Phase 5, which would be just completing what we've been doing with you guys for years now. It's the final phase of our project, and it includes LED lighting for the whole park. The lights now are failing there. The maintenance costs are crazy to replace the bulbs and the ballasts. The poles are rotting. It's time to upgrade. LED seems like a really good option for us. So that's the first one we'll be submitting, hopefully. And the other one is White House Field scoreboard, which is, again, same kind of issue. It's failing. It's not working anymore. We're spending more money maintaining it and replacing parts and remote controls and bulbs. It's time to upgrade. So that's going to be the other one. I just wanted to make you aware of what we're submitting, and that's the direction we're going in. Rec Commission's meeting in a couple weeks to finalize those, but we will have our applications in within the next couple weeks.
Any questions from the board?
Yep.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the board? So I guess we can conclude the meeting. Okay, I need a motion to,
Okay, I will move to close the public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on.
It's 2 pages just because of the smidgen at the bottom.
Okay, we're back to our regular meeting. Is there any public comments? Approval of the minutes of August 10th, 2017. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 10th, 2017.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention.
Okay, under old business, discuss the potential applicants and the CPA project applicants assisting. Does anybody want to comment on that from the board?
Well, I'll just say
Okay.
that we put together a small packet of information printed from our coalition, just some information. Specifically, a lot has to do with the historic preservation area in terms of determining historic resources, what fits in, et cetera, et cetera. It's just something to help. Certainly, reach out to any committee member if you have any questions regarding the applications.
Any questions from the board?
Dave,
Jim.
I just have one question. We had at one point talked about having like at least one committee member from this committee sort of assigned to specific applications to sort of informally assist the applicants, by sort of making them more aware of what some of the potential questions that may be asked when they come for a formal hearing with the board. Are we still considering doing that?
We are, the problem is right now, we're missing a couple of members from key positions. So I would rather wait a little bit to see if those positions get filled, and then we can bring it back on an agenda item.
Okay.
Anything else? Under new business, go ahead,
Well, just-
go ahead,
just
Kathy.
Following up on Jim's
Go ahead.
thing, I think that once we get the applications, I think that some people, if they have some additional time, would be glad to divvy up the list and, reach out to those applicants to see if they have any additional questions that we can help them with.
Okay, and, well, I think that's fine. I think, as Dave mentioned, that any of the applicants should feel free to contact any of the members of the board, who can informally give them just, some insight as to what the board may be considering on that application, even prior to the submission of that application.
Well, in addition, if you're a representative of a particular area on this committee, you should be in touch with anybody that's going to be applying in that particular area, I would imagine.
No, I think that's absolutely correct, Kathy. And, being the representative from the planning board does not submit any applications, so I'm sort of a floater here, and I'd be available to anybody who is submitting an application if they want to talk to me and get my thoughts on, what the substance of their application is.
So does that mean if there's someone that's related to, say, the Historic Commission, is that person looking at those 7 projects, or?
No, we wouldn't do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
That was all.
Anything else? Next, new business. Real estate and open space request for appraisal funding.
I guess that's me. I sort of, I've been away for a couple of days. I forgot that this was on the agenda. I didn't bring some backup information, but I was before the Board of Selectmen a couple weeks ago with Mike Locke from the Harwich Conservation Trust. We were before the Selectmen pursuing the approval to move forward the process and file an application to CPC for a conservation restriction for a property off of Queen Anne Road. It's currently been already purchased and transferred to the ownership of the compact, conservation compact. And they're in a buy and hold situation where they're holding it until December of 2018, with the hopes that the funding will be raised by Harwich Conservation Trust. Harwich Conservation Trust, the purchase price was $800,000. They're looking for another $50,000 for eco-restoration of the site, so that's $850,000. They have a $425,000 anonymous challenge donor. So they're looking to raise an additional $425,000. So they were looking for some support to move the process forward, to submit an application for some potential funding from CPC. We also requested, one of the steps in that is an appraisal of the property, and typically the Community Preservation Committee authorizes funding for an appraisal. So we're looking for up to, I think, $2,500 for an appraisal of this particular property if we want to move the application forward. It's 15 acres of land. A lot of the shoreline borders the Eldridge Pond or Cornelius Pond area. It's in the Six Ponds area. I'll also tell you, it's a beautiful piece of property. It has easy public access right off the road, long driveway. They're hoping to establish parking if the property is purchased ultimately closer to the Queen Anne end, so we could restore the rest of it. There is a house on the property which needs to be taken down.
So the 400,000 is already,
No, that's the amount they need to raise, okay? They haven't decided what the application request is gonna be yet. That'll come in the next couple weeks, but we will need an appraisal,
And that's the 2,500.
and that's where we're seeking up to 2,500. It could be less than that. But you need to have an appraisal, and this committee will be looking for an appraisal regardless. And so, because of the timing, the appraisal request has to go out to bid, takes several weeks, takes maybe 4+ weeks for an appraisal. You know, it would be putting us at the end of the time frame, so I asked for it to be on the agenda for tonight.
any other questions for Kathy? Jim?
Kathy, do you feel that $2,500 is enough funding for an adequate appraisal?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So can I make a motion?
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we support the funding of an appraisal for the Ovaska property, which is, I believe, is at 588 Queen Anne Road.
What did you call it?
Ovaska property. That's what it was, but you can call it the Cornelius Woods, the Cornelius Pond Woodlands Project.
Give me just the initials.
Cornelius, Cornelius Pond Woodlands Project. That is the official name.
Motion on the table?
It is.
There is.
I'll second.
For
Second.
an appraisal.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If I may, Mr. Chair? So,
Sure.
just a question. What does it mean to support the funding?
Oh, well, we will have the funds available if they move forward with looking for an appraisal.
So the funding is coming through
From
this
our
unit?
administrative expenses.
Administrative
Thank
expense,
you.
yeah.
Yep.
I apologize because I interrupted you. I didn't hear a second. Who
Oh,
seconded?
I did.
Dan,
You did.
Dan?
sorry.
No, that was lost on Cornelius.
And, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. No, I just
All right.
interrupted you.
It's all right. We're all set there. Approval of the payroll for the board secretary. I need a motion to, oh,
No.
we can do that. that would qualify.
Do you want to do this now?
Yeah, go ahead.
We
This
had,
is a public service announcement.
that we had received an invitation from Yarmouth called Sharing Housing, a workshop to gain skills in selecting a good home mate. That's scheduled, for Thursday, October 19th, Friday, October 20th, and Saturday, October 21st, from 9:30 to 3:30. This is all with Yarmouth, and you can register with them. I have the information, and I will, well, it wouldn't be available until next month on the internet.
Right, but you can give the,
So the whole thing is, do y'all want to hear this? Should I just read the whole thing?
Yeah, because I don't understand it.
right,
It's a workshop to gain skills in selecting a good home mate. Imagine not worrying about how you are going to make ends meet. Imagine not worrying about falling down and not being found. Imagine having someone you like and respect who lives under the same roof as you. There are numerous advantages to sharing housing with others, but only if it's a good match. There are also horror stories. The key is in choosing the right person. And this workshop that they are talking about will teach you the benefits of sharing housing, what is important for you to be comfortable in your home, 4 guidelines to living well with others, communicating effectively to ensure a harmonious and contented sharing, and finding and interviewing candidates, sharing a housemate compatibility questionnaire. By the end of the 3-day workshop, you will have this knowledge. Day 1 is on home sharing, the basics. Day 2 is on living successfully with a home mate. And day 3, finding and choosing the right person. So this, as I said, is at this, it's in Yarmouth. It will be held at their senior center. The workshop fee is $35. You will also receive a guidebook for finding and keeping good housemates. And Tufts Health Plan Foundation is a partner in the project.
is there a phone number there?
There is. The phone number for registration and details is 508-394-7606, extension 1330. Now you don't have a website.
And this request was from the Town of Yarmouth Affordable Housing Trust. So, thank you. Now, can we get to approving the secretary's minutes and payroll? I need a motion.
You want
I
to
make
tell
a
them how
motion
many
that we
hours?
accept her report.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Okay, next meeting. Do we have a date for our next meeting by chance?
Yeah, it's right on the bottom of your, oh, no, I didn't
No,
do
it's
the
not.
agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be October 12th.
Okay, our next meeting date will be October 12th. October 2nd, the applications are due. At this point in time, do we review the applications, decide when we're gonna double up on dates to go through the application process? How does that work?
Well, I think usually we wait to see how many applications we've received, but pretty standard, we receive anywhere from 10 to 15 on average. And, you know, that's gonna require additional 2
time.
meetings anyway, usually.
Then the applicants are afforded an opportunity to come and
Yes.
present.
Yes.
So we talk about a schedule on how we go about doing that.
Okay. There was, yeah, go ahead.
Before we go on, I just wanted to point out that I think, and I'll double check on it and let you know, that there may be a conflict between the planning board meeting and this committee's meeting on that night. Because if I remember correctly, that's a week of a Monday holiday, in which
We're
case
in a
the planning
small-
board normally moves till Thursday. Now, this meeting will be scheduled for 6 PM. The planning board meeting will be scheduled for 6:30. So if we keep these dates, I can be here, but only for a half an hour.
Okay. Does the board want to address that particular time and change it, or do we want to keep pretty much the same schedule? And what's your pleasure?
Well,
I could do earlier on the 12th to keep it.
We've done that before.
We've done,
Yes,
Yeah.
we have done that before.
Mean like 5:30?
In which case, I could then be here for an hour.
Yep.
Now,
We won't be
that-
voting at that
Yeah, we're only gonna be
time. We
Yeah,
won't
we're
start
just-
a
right, we're
review
just
of
starting
the process.
applications.
Right. So that would be fine with me.
so it's okay with the board?
fine.
Yeah?
So I'll make those changes. We are in the small meeting room that day.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys.
Yeah, that's all my fault.
Is there anything else? I guess not. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 It's a wrap.
Well, I'm going to shock my father being home early.
At some point.